Hello and welcome back, 7th graders. I hope you are all doing well and are doing okay in this unit on applying ratios and proportions in real life. And today I wanted to talk to you about how to calculate tax and tip. If at any point I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video so you can take notes at your own pace. But today is an extremely important lesson. I know math teachers are always like, this is important, you need this in real life. This is one of those things that you do use, and you do use on a daily basis if you're trying to make good financial decisions. The first thing that we're going to talk about is tax, and then we'll move over to tip. Okay, so first of all, just in case we don't already know what tax means, something that most adults do not enjoy paying is a tax. But tax is basically money that the government collects, and they can collect it for a number of different reasons. We won't get into that. But just know that it is money that you usually have to pay, okay? In our mathematical sense, we treat tax as a type of markup. So I'm going to go ahead and write here that is a type of markup. So you can even use last foldable that we made on markups and markdowns to kind of help us with this. A tax is a type of markup. Okay, so a tip, if you don't already know, a tip is, well, let's go ahead and see what a tip is. A tip is money given in usually appreciation of a service. So in places I would tip to when I go get my hair done. If I think the hairstylist did a good job, I would tip if I got my nails done. If I thought that the person did a great job. You would tip at a restaurant. Perhaps you've seen your parents give extra money for a tip. Usually, if you enjoyed the service, you tip more. If you had a negative experience, you usually tend to tip less, okay? Sometimes restaurants make you tip a certain amount based on your party size, and you don't have a choice. It's already in your bill. So just things to look forward to as an adult, okay? And here's how we calculate those. Again, a tip is also a type of markup. So most of what we're doing today is practicing a type of markup. There are some markdowns sprinkled in later in our maze. Okay, so I'm going to give you a situation here. Let's say that I'm buying something for $75. Let's say I'm purchasing my son a new bike and the total is $75. Well, it's not quite the total, okay? So let's say I go in and buy this $75 bike. Well, perhaps in the city of Whittier or the city of Norwalk, the tax is around 9%. It might have gone up since I've last done this, okay? But a 9% tax. So I'm going to have to pay $75 plus 9% of $75. Now there's two questions that you might be asked. So you need to go into each situation knowing what you're being asked. One question could be, what is the cost of the tax and only the tax? Another option could be, what is the total cost with the tax? So those are two different situations. Perhaps you already had money and now you just need to figure out how much more money that you're going to be paying for the tip. And in this situation, it would be, what is the total cost with the original plus the tip? So just as you go into each problem today, just know what type of problem you're trying to answer. So let me show you how to do just the tax. This is very similar, if not identical, to a markup. So once again, I'm going to take note that this 9% tax, if I write this as a decimal, this is 0.09. So it's moving over 2 powers of 10, 2 decimal places. Okay, that's crucial before we get started. Now, just like we did last week or earlier in the week, we're going to take our amount and multiply it by our decimal. So this is just if I want to know my tax. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use a traditional multiplication algorithm. You could use an area model. You could use whatever you would like. I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 0.09. Okay, and I like to pretend like the decimal here doesn't exist. Okay, so I know there's 2 powers of 10s. I'm just gonna move it over and pretend like I'm doing 75 times 9. Okay, if I do that, the product of 5 and 9 is gonna be 45. Okay, I'm gonna carry my 40. The product of 70 and 9, or 7 times 9 in this case, we could see that as 63 plus 4 more. So we got a product of 67 here. Okay. Now my answer is not 675. That does not make any sense. There is no way a 9% tax could be $675. So don't forget to go back and adjust your powers of 10. So I move this over 2 powers of 10. In the end, I'm gonna go over and put the decimal back in the correct location. And I'm gonna check, does $6.75 seem reasonable? Well, yeah, because 10% of 75 would be 750, and so this is pretty darn close. So I'm gonna go ahead and conclude that my tax would be $6.75. Okay, so that's one option. Now, what if you don't care about the tax? What if you just wanna know how much is coming out of your pocket altogether? How much am I gonna swipe my debit or credit card for? That's where we would go to option number 2. Now, if I wanted to, I could just add $6.75 to $75, which some of you might like doing that more, and I would invite you to do that. If you just wanna know, let's say you were only ever asked this question right here. What is the total cost with tax? Just like I showed you in our last lesson, I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge that the total cost was $75. And how would I write, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat this here, $75. And I would write the 9% tax. Again, 9% tax. Remember, we know that this is like we're gonna multiply it by 1.09. Remember, we took 100% and added it to 9%, which was 109%, but as a decimal, it's 1.09, okay? So I would go ahead and multiply these two numbers. So again, if you want to do traditional arithmetic here, or traditional algorithm rather, go ahead. Again, I might have a little decimal there, but I'm gonna pretend like the decimal doesn't exist right now. Okay, as I multiply, I see that the product of 9 and 5, once again, is 45. Oopsie, that should be a 5. 45. The product of 0 and 5 is 0. I'm going to go ahead and add my 4, or that's really a 40. 100 times 5, or 1 times 5 here. Okay, be careful here when you multiply. I'm using 0 as my placeholder because I'm multiplying by a power of 10, or 70. 7 times 9 is 63. 0 times 7 is 0. I'm going to go ahead and add my 6. And 1 set of 7 is 7. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and find the sum of those products, which gives me this answer. Once again, this answer is nonsense. It doesn't make sense. There's no way that I'm going to pay $8,175. Remember, I moved this over 2 powers of 10. So I'm going to go back 1, 2, and I'm going to put the decimal right back there. Oops. Okay, so this is going to be a total of $81.75. Again, some of you are like, Mrs. Carbajal, why didn't you just add $6.75 to 75? And that is an option. But again, if you were never asked this question, you can go straight here, okay? So it just depends on what you're being asked and how you like to calculate your problems. Okay, really, there's nothing new here. Tip is similar and nearly identical, just tip is just different in real life, okay? So option 1, what is the cost of the tip? Perhaps you wanna know just how much more money you're gonna pay. And if that's the case, let's say I have, let's say I'm purchasing something for $24. Let's say I'm gonna go get some tacos for my family, and I have a total of $24 at the restaurant, and I had a pretty good experience. It wasn't fantastic, but it was pretty good. I might leave an 18% tip. Okay, I usually leave 20, just so you guys don't attack me here. Again, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that this is 0.18 or 18 hundredths as a decimal. And just like I did in example 1, I'm going to go ahead and take my original cost. And it really doesn't matter the order in which you multiply that. Again, the commutative property of multiplication says I could stack those either way, and it doesn't matter. Okay. If I find the product of 4 and 8, I get 32. Okay, I got 16 here, plus 3 more is 19. Using 0 as my placeholder for my power of 10. 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 2 is 2. Finding the sum of my products. And if you need to fast forward here, you can fast forward if you don't need a lesson on how to multiply, okay? And we have 432. Oh my goodness, I would never go out to eat. No, remember I went over 2 powers of 10 here. So I gotta go back and go 2 powers of 10 over. So this is really $4.32 as my tip. Again, if you are more comfortable doing that and then adding it to the original cost, go for it. Again, what if you were never asked what the tip is? What if you're only asked what the total cost is? Again, you could add them, or you could just go straight to multiplying the total cost with the tip. Okay, moving a little bit quicker here. At this point, I know that I'm going to be multiplying 1.18. Again, I'm going to go ahead and add 100% and 18% to get 118%. Okay, so let me go ahead and multiply 118 or 1.18 by my original cost. I'm going to pretend like the decimal doesn't exist right now, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and find the product here, which is 32. 1 times 4 is 4, plus the 3 is 7. 1 times 4 is 4, using 0 as my placeholder. 2 times 8 is 16. We got 2 plus 1 more is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. Again, I know that was a little quicker, but I don't think that you guys need a lesson on how to multiply here. Once again, it does not make sense for my answer to be 2,832. I went over 2 powers of 10. I'm going to bring it back. Okay, again, if I were just simply asked what's the total cost, I can say the total cost is $28.32. So I'm not quite paying just $24 to go eat out. I'm actually going to, in total, in this situation, pay $28.32. Okay, so moral of the story here, just really think about what question you're being asked. You might be asked what's the tip or what's the tax, or you might be asked what's the total cost. So depending on the situation, you want to pick a route that is most friendly to you. Okay, and thank you for showing work. These are not problems, as you can see. These are not problems that you would do in your head. So it does require a little bit of calculation, and when you show your work, these are kind of the calculations I should be seeing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.